much I participate in events. My thing is, I mean, I'm a Kedusha guy. You know what I mean? So it's like everything's Kedusha. Don't get me wrong. Everything, especially in Eretz Israel, everything's Kedusha. But some levels, you have to go out and connect to, and in other levels, you could, make the connection in your house. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what's going on um, tonight. But yeah, it's a big night. There's a lot of performances and people doing shows and events and all that type of stuff and festivals or whatever. So yeah, whatever, and so we see. But the thing is, it's like even going out to public places, it's like, oh man, it's like a thing. So anyway, so yeah, so we're with that. But yeah, just going into the safer we're learning, which is the Ramchal, Kilak Birkei Chokmah. And we're in chapter 26. It's the third part of it actually. And he just really I mean, one, you learn about the author. You learn about the writer's personality by, his writings and these types of things. Hold on one second. He's at the sukkah. Yeah. Uh, he took some food over there, I think. Anyways, learning the safer. We're only in the 26th chapter, but it seems like Ramchal really takes his time to really refine ideas, and like he doesn't just like kind of like say things and like move on to the next thing. He really goes over. So he's really focusing us on this idea of he's really focusing us on this idea of the separation between the endless lights and the Simsun, but then also understanding that it's not really a separation. It's just that these particular set of lights were you know, uh, you see like a flower, how it blossoms. There's different parts of the blossoming, right? Like the stem, the buds, the inner parts. So when you look at the inner part of a flower, it's like very refined, very rich. Like this, the presentation, smell, everything, right? And so that is kind of like an expression of God, right? And or that aspect that is an expression of the same source, but an expanded expression of it, or the most refined expression of it. So he's saying that about the lights that exist in the Simsun, but at the same time, he's saying that the lights are only like a residue, right? So it's like a combination. It's like one, these lights are expressing a relatively small aspect of the original light it comes from, right? Because the original light it comes from has two forms, right? It has the original light in the Simsun, right? The Simsun, which is the Bria, the world that we live in, right? The reality we live in. And so things manifest to it, right? Creation. So you have that aspect of creation, right? That manifest. And then in and then above, so every like the tree itself, right, is in this frame, because then we got to go back and we have to understand the Simsun, right? Like what is the basis of the Simsun? Like how do we understand the Simsun? And we understand it through the Hebrew letters, which became divine names, and these are divine names kind of like accumulated in a particular place in the endless world, and those divine names became the impetus of this separation, the Simsun of these of the endless lights, and the separation of them being expressed in a more limited capacity. So, but the mechanism, the instructions for the Simsun, or this reality comes from the lights of the endless world that were supposed to be revealed. And the way that we understand that knowledge or that system or that mechanism is through the concept of the Torah, right? The Torah and Shemaim, right? Which all the reality comes from, right? And so that idea of the the this idea of Torah being in the Shemaim, I mean not in Shemaim, in the endless worlds, in the Ein Sof, right? In this Torah being in the Ein Sof, and this in the Torah itself being an accumulation of lights that go through 22 different funnels, right, to become manifest. In those funnels, we call letters, and in those letters, you know, come together, and they're called divine names. Those divine names come together, and then they form what we call the Torah, the instructions. Instructions for what? The world that we live in. How did that world emerge? It starts with the process of the Simsun. What is the Simsun? It's the same lights from the endless world, or some of it's let me say it better, it's some of the lights of the endless world that were subjugated to manifest at a super e- on a super level, right? And so the tree in this world is energy, right? Light. The world above the Simpson, right? That energy also existed, and it's in the frame of letter, right? So you have the world of letter, which is the endless world, and you have the world of physical manifestation, right? And that starts with energy, DNA, these types of things. So, electron, proton, neutron, these types of things, energy, and it manifests physically. So we got to be clear on that, right? We got to be clear on the participation between the Simsun and the Ein Sof, and that process of how the Ein Sof got to this point where it could have manifest itself in this frame called the Simpson. That's what we're working on, the clarity on that. And and so from there, uh, okay, okay, okay. So we're on part three. Yeah, Gimel. Okay, so it says Vizeh Hamakom Nikara Shehu Halal. Halal. Okay, so it says he says the place or space is said to be empty. Halal, which means hollow. Halal. He says, in the sense that it serves as a container. So I'm not clear what's going on right now. Hold on. All right, so let's go back a little bit. It says, "Hu ha-makam ha-nikara makom kol ha-nis nimsa lifi shehu noten lachem." Okay, mi simsum. So he says it's called place or space all that exists because this is what gives them the ability to exist, which is the aspect of limitlessness, which did not give them. Okay. So he says it is called place or space as much as it feels the function of space, place or space, which contains that which stands within it. However, it is not a place in the physical sense of being an actual place containing whatever stands within it. For the concept of physical place space is not acceptable to the spherot. They are God, godliness, or what is this? Godness, godliness, godliness. They are godliness, and godliness have no physical dimension. Okay. It's like I gotta be clear on these things. Okay, so up here he's talking about this residue, right? And he's saying this idea of this residue exists on this frame of Malchut. right? So every level, like Keter has a Malchut, right? Keter has a Keter and Keter has a Malchut. Keter has a Chokmah, Keter has a Bina, Keter has a, you know what I'm saying? There's a Keter of Keter. So there's a Keter of all these levels. So that means that there has to be a Malchut of all the levels, right? And so he's saying the levels of light as they manifest go through this process of manifestation, and it starts from a frame of Keter and it goes to the place of Malchus. But the Malchus are connected to all nine, right? That's the thing. They're connected to all nine, but the true Malchut or the encompassing Malchut that these other Malchuts are expressed of has its own level, which is Malchut, right? And so now what he's trying to do is explain how to understand this level of Malchut, right? Malchut is the 10th level of the 10 laws constituting by the Sfirot. So learn the Sfirot as laws, right? Governing laws of how the world functions, meaning the systems, meaning Hesed is a function, Gevurah is a function, Tiferet is a function. All these things are functions, and then they manifest themselves physically. And that's why we deal with certain things the way we do. And that's why we have certain laws. That's why we have certain brachot. Everything we're doing is going with the legal system that's expressed through energy that makes up the physical reality, right? And he wants us to understand this aspect of Malchut. The man, is incomplete without a woman, right? Because a woman represents Malchut, right? She represents all the manifestation. She takes his seed and forms a baby. She takes his light and builds a house, right? And he says, accordingly, the bond of the last bottommost powers contain the unlimited, right? It's like we talked about, like the Pope of the juice is always at the bottom, like the density of it. He says contains the unlimited, which joins together to make the residue in this way is the overall Malchut. This is the place of created realms and beings, for this is the law that gives them existence. The residue itself is made up of these powers. They are joined together in these beings' root in the lower realms as below. It's like, it's interesting. You see like raindrops on your car, your windshield, these types of things. It's always going down, you know? It's always going down, right? Okay, so he says this place of created realm and beings is for the laws that give them existence. Okay, so basically he's saying that the residue itself is a manifestation of Malchut, right? The 10 laws, there's 10 laws that govern, you know, 10 laws, whatever, 10 commandments, but there's 10 governing systems, right? That make up the physical reality, right? And he's saying this idea the bottommost part is unlimited. I guess maybe the way to understand it is through the idea of death, right? It's like, even though you go through this process and at the end of your life you're at your weakest, it's to transition to something much greater, right? And it's showing this kind of like limitless it's showing this kind of like limitless relationship with the limitless relationship between Malchut and the continuation, right? Meaning that this dynamic. He says, okay, so he says, hold on a second, why people have to be alone? Second. Okay, so anyways, so yeah, so that's the main idea, right? Is to connect to this idea. So what he's going to do further now, that's why sometimes you just have to go back a little bit. What he's going to do further now, he wants us to understand this concept of Malchut, right? So he's going even deeper into it, right? So he refers to it as is a place or a space of all that all exist, right? Because we are, like we said earlier, right? Even in the frame of the Simsun, there's energy, and then that energy manifests as material. In the world of the Simsum, in the world of the Ein Sof, it's the same light that's in the world of the Simsum, but is in a limited frame. What is this limited frame? Energy, right? I'm using energy just as a frame of reference, right, to understand the difference. But in the dynamic of the Ein Sof, the endless world, right? That same light is in the frame of an expression of an endless light that goes through these filters of names and letters into even a higher source, right? That's beyond our logic, right? And so we're just dealing with dissemination. So he wants us to understand the dissemination of Malchut, because Malchut is a frame where all the residue manifest, right? And so he says it is called space. It is called space. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry, so we're good. You just have a lot of traffic coming in and out. It's a yeshiva, like literally, it's literally a yeshiva. Like, we're learning Alliance Yeshiva, but it's also like there's a physical location. There's all types of people coming through, traffic. Anyways, okay. So, he wants us to understand this concept of Malchut, right? And he says it's called a place. He said it's called place or space, as much as it fills the function of a place or space which contains that which stands within. However, it is not a place in a physical sense of being an actual place containing whatever stands with it. For the concept of space is not applicable to the spheros, since their godliness, and godliness has no physicality. Okay, so let's go deeper into the space. So he says this place or space is said to be empty. Just want to make sure. Page here. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I wasn't talking to myself. So he's saying like he's trying to help us understand that when we say Malchut is a place where all the lights manifest, normally you would think like it's like this place is like a suction cup. It's like it's a void. It's this whole thing. How do we understand it, right? And so this is what he's trying to clarify. He says it's called a hollow place. It's the energy itself. I don't know if we can understand it with our mind, but in such a way, he says, in the sense that it serves as a container to hold others. He says it is a particular level whose essence is such that that it needs another to exist and depend upon it. Like space waiting to be built up, which is empty as long as it's not filled with building. He says, since the essence of Malchut is to enable worlds to exist and dependent upon it like branches, we say metaphorically it is like a container. And as long as only this level exists and the world didn't exist, we say that the container is hollow and empty, since the world depends upon it and came into existence, since we say that is a hollow fool. That's big. Okay, that's very clear. So how do we understand it being a void in an empty space? Because before that light is there, it is void, because the purpose of that light is to fully manifest the collection of lights that make up this world, right? Which he refers to as a building block. So he says, so as long as this level existed and the world did not exist, we say that it's an empty container, right? It's like you have a cup, right? But if you pour certain things inside of it, it becomes a milkshake. But without the milkshake, it's just a cup, right? Nam ad shehi halevit tichalet shotel shotel shotel. No, I'm sorry. Shulta shulta. Haya hakol shalem bakol shlemot. Like complete unity. So he says needed indeed as long as the unlimited held sway, everything was completely perfect. As soon as the unlimited departed, Malchut was revealed as a container. So the unlimited swayed away. He's talking about the Ein Sof. Why is he doing it like that? He says, as soon as the unlimited swayed away, everything, he says, as long as the unlimited held sway, everything was completely perfect. That's the endless world. As soon as the unlimited departed, we became the Simsun, Malchut was created as a container. But initially it was not revealed as being filled with all the worlds, but rather as an empty space. Nevertheless, it was not completely hollow, for the roots of the worlds were were that were destined to merge was present in the form of residue, except that the residue was like air in the sense that the worlds were not um, yeah, very well. Okay. Um, so anyways, so the point is just saying, okay, so when the earth swayed away, nevertheless it was not completely hollow. For the root of the worlds were destined to emerge in the presence of the form of in residue, except that the residue was like air in the sense that the worlds were not discernible. Accordingly, even though its container was full of air, it is called hollow in relation to the Ein Sof, blessed be He. The initial, the, for initially prior to the Simsun, there was no need for any further perfection, and even after the Simsun, the encompassing Ein Sof lacked no perfection whatsoever. Ah, So he's clarifying. Even prior to the Simpson, there was no need for any further perfection. And even after the Simpson, the encompassing Ein Sof lacked no perfection. All right. So he's clarifying. He's like a weed whacker. He's just walking through, just knocking down weeds. That which is still in need of perfection is called hollow. Wow. 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 So he's saying when that Simpson thing happened, unlimited went to limited. And when unlimited went to limited, the framework of this full manifestation of limited needed to go had this process inserted called the malchut. And so that's why they call it emptying a vessel or suction cup, whatever you want to call it, because it was inserted. It's almost like you have a table on your table in a bunch of you know cranberry juice or something starts spilling and it starts spilling off the table, and then you come out of nowhere and you grab like a plate or a cup or whatever, and you and all of it drips in there, right? And so that was only a byproduct of something that was in a one reality, and then transitioning to another reality where you had to compensate. I'm not saying Hashem had to compensate because he said clearly the whole purpose of the Simpson was for the residue to fully manifest. So it wasn't like it was something, oh man, we got to get a Malchut. No, but Malchut was the insertion that happened through the Simpson, and it did not affect the perfection of the Ein Sof whatsoever. And this is very clear. Okay. He says, we therefore say, okay, so we therefore say that afterwards, when the line came down and made residue into the spherot and filled it, this hollow, this is why the Kabbalistic sages say that the line filled the hollow and that the entire hollow space was filled with the 10 sphirot of Adam Kadmon. Lish hakeshot ma sarik lomer mashega bi Ein Sof. So he's saying like this, Ma Sarik, I need to understand. I need to. He says what? He says here's an objection, right? This is how much he's a weed whacker. He just wants it to be clear. I could object. What need is there to say? Oh, hold on 1 second. I just realized somebody else came. This is like I don't know what's happening, bro. It's just like unbelievable levels of clarity. Hold on, zoom, yeah. Uh, so somebody was trying to get in the class. All right, fair enough. Okay, so he's saying like what does it need just to say that this is called hollow in relation to the Ein Sof? Should we not say hollow because okay? So here's objections. What need is there to say that there is a hollow in relation to the Ein Sof? Should we not say that it's called hollow because it is a need for because it is in need of perfection? Okay, hold on 1 second. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Okay, so we're diving into this concept of malchut and what it represents. There's this idea of malchut coming into play as the lights that were unlimited became limited. The frame of malchut became inserted in the frame of the like it's almost like it was a software that was put into this new world of limitations. And the purpose of this software called Malchut is for all things to manifest physically, right? And so now he's coming to with objections, and he's saying, I could object. What need is there to say that it is called hollow in relation to the Ein Sof? I think he clarified that, but I'm gonna see what he's gonna say. He says, should we not say it is called hollow because it is still in need of perfection? Okay, let's see what the answer is. The answer is that as much as the container was at the time filled with the residue, it should not have been called hollow. However, in relation to the encompassing Ein Sof, blessed be He, who was the perfection in who is the perfection in every way, to whom the concept of perfection is not applicable. It is called hollow. It is also called hollow relative to what is what it was when it was filled with the unlimited which departed from it. Okay. So basically he's substantiating the language, right? He's saying why would you call it space or hollow or something like this in relation to the English word? I feel like he did already it was pretty clear earlier, but he just I guess he's restating it or maybe he's saying it maybe in a slightly different way. But the point is just saying that he's even bringing up a bigger idea. When we think about the creative system, right? Because we don't know the creator's beyond our imagination, but the creative system, right? And it's there's a level in the creative system that's above time, space, and motion, right? Time, space, and motion. So to us, the way our brains function is that we work in this like kind of like symmetrical, time frame and stages, and we make steps, right? we our building structures, like we have this mechanism of steps, and that's how we're able to elevate, right? Go to one floor to another. So he's explaining to us that this whole system of creation was like already created, already as we understand thinking was in an instance. So all of these different stages that we're learning about is how it manifests. That process of manifestation, what was it like? What did it go through? What were the details? That's what we're learning right now. So when we talk about the idea of Malchut as a relation to the endless world, well, Malchut per se was not the mechanism of the Ein Sof, but nevertheless, the thought intelligence that existed in the Ein Sof, meaning that those letters that became names, right, and informed an instruction manual that we call the Torah, which is the blueprint of the Simsun, right, which is the entire reality that we live in. It's from that blueprint, which is the holy names, right? So why is it the blueprint? Because all of those holy names became manifested in this world. The holy names that make up what we call the Torah became the manifestation in this physical world. So everything that you see is an expression of Torah, right? What does it mean, Torah? Torah meaning the governing laws that make up this reality. Where do those governing laws come from? Those governing laws come from the lights that manifest themselves in the endless world in the frame of divine names. That's the Torah. The world that we live in, the world that we live in is an expression of that Torah, meaning the reason why there's an idea of gravity, the reason why there's a concept of anything, right? Breathing, thinking, emotions, all this is a byproduct of lights that were supposed to be manifest from the endless world, right? So what we're learning here is this process of not, forgetting that principle, right? And not understanding that everything was created at once, right? So we're learning about it in stages. So don't think that because there's an empty void, that there's some type of imperfection in the creator, right? As where the fact that the creator can create a void is showing his absolute perfection that is beyond our imagination and in supremacy over creation. Okay, all right. So that's what it is. Shehu, pan, sorry, Pevui the Omer the High and Soft. So he says it is devoid of light of the Ein Sof, blessed be He, in a sense that its limitless is not found there. There it is at first. He says this explains why the worlds can exist on the level in the hollow of which they are speaking, because the unlimited, which would otherwise not permit the existence of separate vessels, is not found there after the Simson. We just said that. Anainze, Bear Mir Anira, Makom Halal Panivui. Okay, so he says the way this appears in prophetic visions as a hollow, vacant space filled with fine lights that we call residue. This is the place in which all created worlds will stand, as I have explained. So that's Malchut, right? That's Malchut. Wow. Oh man. Okay. This is big stuff, man. It's such big stuff because it's not like, I just read something that was really moving, something really profound. No, this is like a new way to see life, reality. And out of this understanding of Malchut and the mechanism of Malchut, and now I'm building a new relationship with creation. I'm looking at creation like, hey, we got something in common. This is what I see of myself and what I see of you is only a limitation of what we really are. And we go all the way back up. We go all the way back past the Simpson, everything. And we're just in the frame of Malchut, which is not the full reality. It's only an aspect of reality of who we are. We are endless lights. Anybody want to jump in? Thoughts, ideas, reflections?
Baruch Hashem. Um, I feel like the Ram Call has given us, a perfect structure for us to begin to contemplate ways of Hashem, and the structuring of this reality, kind of explaining how there can be concealment and presence, um, like the Shumu, the residue. Um, it kind of what it made me think about is like our bodies, right? You have the goof, and then you have the neshama that's within it. So like the goof is just it's the structure. It's like the coarseness of it in a way, and that's not the best wording, but it allows the presence of the neshama. It allows the soul to be filled. I mean, the body, the soul can feel the body now through this residue in a way. So it's like now we have the ability to really kind of connect to how the structure of the world, like the kav, like the line that now comes in is only there. It's possible now because you have this residue that's been like structured out, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's where he's gonna go next. I think that's what he's gonna go in terms of his curve, like the straight line, which is like basically like it's like kind of like you see those kebabs on the sword, right? You got the sword and you got the different meats on it. So it's kind of like that type of thing where it's like you have the straight line, and then these straight lines allow for different dimensions of this residue to manifest, right? And we'll
Mhm.
see. We may be corrected. Any other points? Any other reflections?
Baruch Hashem. Yeah, just from the mindset, and I'm real in tune with what Otanel just said. Is that we get this idea? Romcom is really giving us the structure of rethinking ourselves within this creation, and how we function on a day-to-day basis. That we really have a reality, that we can change reality by understanding, by having this understanding. And where it's not that what we do is just like a temporary thing, but that we are lights that are unlimited, that we are lights that come from the Ansab, that we are lights that can manifest greatness within the earth. um and it just makes us more aware of what we're doing. That's pretty much where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and on that point, like what Ram Call's bringing out, he should be blessed. His family should be blessed, his descendants. The thing is, it's like it removes the religion out of this idea of following the Torah and the Halakha, right? It's not like, oh, we're scared of God and this, and we're gonna get punished. It's like, no, these are just literally the laws of the universe. Like when you see that there's a gravity and there's wind and there's wind chill factors and there's all these different things, those are governing principles of nature expressing themselves. So there's a higher governing principle that governs even that. And obviously it goes up higher and higher and higher. But the point is, what we're accepting at this point is that the governing principles that make up reality, right, is the Torah. Is the Torah. They think, oh, it's in science. Science knows we gotta be in tune with science. What are you talking about? This is science. This is the what you're talking about is an imitation. It's the fake Louis Vuitton. The real system of science can only be understood through the creation of this world through God's influence. Without that, you don't have a central base to go back from to build off of. So you're always going. It's nothing's going to be foundational. It's always going to change, right? Look at history. Look at the history of science. Look at the history of discovery. How many times they changed their mind, right? Because they think they can do it themselves. They think they can figure it out themselves. They think they can see it with their microscope, with their telescope. No, it's already created. And we have to understand it through the source. So it's the governing laws of creation is why we keep Shabbat. It's the governing laws of creation is why we stay away from our wives when they're in Nida, right? It's the governing creation of laws of why we speak to each other, why we forgive each other, why we show patience. It's not an emotion. It's not a feel good. It's not, oh, you're such a good student, you're an A student, or you're a good citizen. Nothing to do with that. This is the law of the universe. If you don't want to get burnt, don't touch the hot pan. That's it. It's that simple. This is not religion. This is the system of man. This is the system of Adam Rishon. This is what he lived underneath through dissemination. We fell, we got lower and lower, that we had to have Mount Sinai to give us another chance, or at least have a community that represented this idea of the perfected man. What is a perfected man? Living in the governing law, legal system of creation, which in this world is energy, and in the world above that is pure light. That's it. That's what this whole thing is. Now you got religion, this sect, that sect. You wear this thing this way. Okay, fine. But Rosh Hashanah brings us back. Hashem Melech, right? It brings us back. Hashem is king. What does that mean? It means all things begin and end there. And now I have a system of analyzation of myself, everything. Because they told me, hey, they said, you black, you Negro, you colored, right? Yeah, your ancestries, you came from that. And then people say, well, you're just ashamed of your background. That's why you're saying that. No, nobody's ashamed, because even if we do the black thing, I'm greater than you. Okay? Let's just look at it. We put kindness on the table, we put forgiveness on the table, we put patience on the table, we put innovation on the table. I come from people much greater than yours. Okay? And I'm not comparing. I'm not trying to do that, but that's not what this is. Because I come from this greatness, I'm going back to the Ein Sof. That's how dynamic my DNA is. That I am in Jerusalem teaching other people, similar background, same background, right? And we're talking about going back to the Ein Sof, not as a detachment, but as a continuation. There's no shame here. It's empowerment, right? So embracing the totality of who I am is rejecting a narrative that was created by somebody else. I'm sorry, I am too popping for that. I'm too popping to be under your narrative. I'm sorry, I'm not there. I'm Cassius Clay. Oh wait, no, Muhammad Ali. I switched. All right. So I think tomorrow's Shabbos. Okay, so we God willing, everything's normal, and we'll continue this conversation. But this is a redefinition of man, right? It's not a black thing. It's not a white thing. All these are definitions that were created by thoughts and people with limited consciousness. They're still talking about science, man. They're trying to figure out the universe through science and their telescopes. That's